Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight, just how many Chinese workers are helping with the Pointe? 3 men dead in 2 overnight shootings. The government stepping back from planning Bahamas Junkanoo Carnival. We take a look at what's new with the Ministry of Education, plus the men of Kappa Alpha Psi visit the Prime Minister. Welcome to our news and thanks for watching. I'm Kyle Joaquin. Topping news tonight, Foreign Affairs Minister Fred Mitchell is weighing in on the debate over how many Chinese workers will ultimately end up working on the Pointe development. Mitchell says despite the heads of agreement outlining a ratio for Bahamian and foreign workers, he believes Bahamians should be given first preference. Jasmine Brown has his candid comments in this report.
Doesn't matter what is in the heads of agreement. The principle is always the same. If there are Bahamians available for those jobs, then Bahamians will get the jobs. That's my point of view. And work permits are only issued if the Department of Labor certifies that the labor is not available in the Bahamas. I am not a fan, in the discussions in Cabinet, I am not a fan of putting specific numbers in these heads of agreement. But that's the heads of agreement that we have from the Cabinet. So I don't think Bahamians ought to have any fear, and I don't myself want to get involved in an argument over how many and how many are not. The fact is, the principle is what I'm concerned about is, if Bahamians are available, they get the jobs. If there are no Bahamians available, Department of Labor will certify, and that is, I think all of these agreements usually say, and I can't speak because I said I don't remember this specific one, but they usually say, with regard to immigration matters, even if they put the numbers in it, that it is subject to the usual due diligence of the ministry.
Thanks, Jasmine. Well, police need your help in solving 2 separate shooting incidents that left 3 men dead. In the first, just after 9 last night, a man was walking along with 2 others when a man armed with a handgun approached him and shot him. He was pronounced dead on the scene.
We don't know the motive at this time with respect to this latest shooting, but we are appealing to members of the public. We know that there were a number of persons here on this park who may have seen or heard anything. We are appealing to them to please come forward to assist in advancing this investigation. The deceased is known to the police. He is in and out of custody for questioning in reference to a number of serious matters. We know that early in the week there was a murder just across the street at Ida Street. We are not ruling out the connection. It may be a connection, but that is a line of inquiry that we are following to see if any connection with both shootings.
In the second incident, an altercation at a nightclub on East Street and Lewis Street just after midnight ended with a man firing several shots into a crowd of patrons. 1 man was shot and killed as he attempted to leave in his vehicle. Another was taken to hospital where he later died. Police are asking anyone with information to contact them at 911, 919 or Crime Stoppers at 328-TIPS. Well, if you haven't heard anything much about this year's Junkanoo Carnival Festival, we may have an explanation for that. Tourism Minister Obi Welchcombe says the government has stepped away from planning for the festival and has left it completely in the hands of the Bahamas National Festival Commission, who will now have to partner with the private sector for funding. It's a move, he said, that should save the government millions.
I've recommended, my view is that the Carnival ought to be privatized now. We've proven over the last 2 years that it does have traction. What we should be doing is we should be privatizing, allowing for a private operator to fund it, but pay the government a franchise fee. And and allow the government over a period of time to collect what it has invested. It is a major event that can have major contribution to the economy and can grow.
For the 2 years Bahamas Junkanoo Carnival has been held, the government has gone millions over budget, sparking heavy criticism. Now, with plans to completely privatize the festival, Wilcombe says the money can go to more important things.
I think the money we've spent in the past, we should spend some of that money now on the refurbishment of the Dundas, refurbishment of the National Center for the Performing Arts, and on creating new programs that will assist the arts and theater.
Last year, government budgeted $7 million for Junkanoo Carnival, a reduction from the previous year's budget. But Wilcombe says he expects the Festival Commission to spend even less this year.
Again, I'm operating on the premise I hope we don't have to spend anything in. I'm operating on the premise that the private sector put it in, let the private sector pay the government a franchise fee. We'll own the franchise, so certain standards must be maintained, but allow for it to be run by the private sector as a private interest. They can, I'm sure, we can get a tremendous amount of rewards for doing it. What we should be doing now, we've started it. Having started it now, we've invested. Now it's time for us to hand it over. We get a franchise fee to ensure the standards are maintained, but the private sector should take it over.
This year's festival is scheduled for May 4th through the 6th, just before the deadline for the next general election. F&M Deputy Leader Peter Turnquest has called on the government to postpone Carnival until after the 2017 election. However, Wilcombe doesn't support that idea.
I don't think the country stops because of elections. The country continues, and the governments are continuous. I think, as I said, I'd like to see it move more to the private sector now. Government has done what it could do. It's established it. It's proven that it does have marketability. So allow now for the private sector to come in as stakeholders and be able to purchase a franchise. I think you would have seen even today where the Carnival in Trinidad and Tobago, they've reduced their budget, and they're going to be spent $25 million for their Carnival this year because it's a part of what you have to do there. We introduce it as a part of the offering. Don't forget, May is going to be a very busy month in the Bahamas because we not only have the big soccer matches going to be going on, we also have the IAAF, and of course we're going to have other events during the course of May.
While the Bahamas is joining other developed nations around the world placing a focus on science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, beginning with primary school students in the public school system. And as Christina McNeil tells us in this report, the pilot program is already taking off.
Eager fourth grade students at T.G. Glover Primary School got their first taste of computer coding, learning how to code their own computer games. It's a move the Ministry of Education, Science and Technology hopes will translate into increased student engagement and achievement while bringing Bahamian students on par with their peers in developed nations. Senior Policy Advisor for Science, Technology and Innovation, Dr. Karen St. Cyr, explains the progress so far.
We have actually introduced coding for the first time in public schools in the Bahamas, but we started at the high school level because of the priority in the area.
St. Cyr says coding is replacing many other skills needed for industries around the world.
So we know that it is the way to go, not because we have seen it in practice, but we know that it is a critical skill. As a matter of fact, coding is identified and described as the main and most essential skill for 21st century learners at this time.
T.G. Glover has forged a partnership with a school in Maryland, working on finding solutions to coding problems. Experts from Discovery Education made the introduction to the students during an in-depth session earlier this week.
Hi, my name is Mrs. Whiteford, and we are here with Mrs. Hession's fourth grade class. There are 24 of us in her class, and we are really looking forward to getting to know you and sharing and learning together. We have used the Discovery Education program before, and now we're using a different program that our students are going to share about.
We have schools all over the world using Discovery Education, digital services, and coding. It was designed in anticipation of the United Kingdom adapting coding as part of their formal curriculum. And now schools all over the world are teaching their kids to code from a very young age, starting at the early years of primary school.
Although the program kicked off on New Providence, St. Cyr says it will be rolled out on the Family Islands also and will seek to engage parents around the country to support and encourage the focus on STEM.
At the end of it, that not only will their children be learning coding and the other applications for infusion of technology, but they will also be working along with their children on coding applications for them as parents, for homework assistance. We are going to be having STEM nights in schools. We are going to be having STEM seminars for the community, because the whole thing is, unless it catches on at the community level and at the national level, then the school is just going to be isolated.
And there's even more ahead. St. Cyr says the next step will be the introduction of a Lego robotics program for students in kindergarten. Reporting for our news, I'm Christina McNeil.
Thanks, Christina. Well, the local chapter of a fraternity is getting set to do some big things here in the capital within the next few weeks. Prime Minister Perry Christie made a courtesy call to the men of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated yesterday, where he welcomed a few of their members from abroad as well. Pole Mark for the fraternity's Southern Province, Bertram Oram, shared how thrilled he is for the future of Kappa Alpha Psi in the Bahamas.
On behalf of the 33rd Grand Pole Mark Thomas L. Battles Jr., it is indeed an honor and a privilege for us to be here in your country today as we take care of our business.
Earlier today, we met with the President Rodney Smith, in regard to fine-tuning details to ensure that we have a chapter at the campus by the end of this semester. They've been very successful, they've been very promising, so we're moving forward as a fraternity. We have a lot of brothers here that are part of the Bahamas Alumni Chapter.
According to Oram, the fraternity has plans of starting its first undergraduate international chapter for the Southern Province right here in the Bahamas. Prime Minister Christie applauded the young men, saying this sort of mentorship and leadership is needed in the Bahamas, particularly for young men.
I therefore say that in that context that I welcome your going into the University of the Bahamas. I've toiled long and hard to make sure that happens. It's great pride for me, having spoken to universities in the United States of America and all through the region, to know that now we have our own university here, and now to know that persons such as yourselves have decided to go into the student body and help organize the organization that you belong to as a chapter there, and hopefully incentivize them to think of the vulnerability issue that you are minded to do something about, so that they themselves can be better citizens.
State Minister of Investments, Kalis Roll, is also a member of Kappa Alpha Psi.
Certainly, Prime Minister, we've been involved in community development mainly through our Guide Right program, which is a program that mentors young men, give them a sense of purpose, give them a sense of direction. I always tell people my reason for joining Kappa Alpha Psi was Rupert Gardner, who was my high school coach, track and field coach, who helped to develop me, helped to mold me, helped to give me a sense of direction.